Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. This is the Canadian Bowler Show. I am Michael Patulli, and I am joined here today by my fantastic friend Daryl Fitzgerald. How's it going, Daryl?
Pretty good, Mike. Uh, Missing bowls already. I mean, having the time off over the pandemic and even the year in, and then getting to play this year a little bit more. I'm definitely itching for some more plays, so I'm missing it already.
Yeah, it's always weird when you hit about October, November, because it just feels like the season's just over, but and then you just want to keep playing, but obviously you can't in Canada, so is what it is. And I guess we get to look forward to the winter and maybe hopefully playing in some sort of a tournament going somewhere, but who knows if that's a possibility. We'll see.
Hope so.
I guess before we really get into it, since we are here, I'm going to remind you to hit that like, comment, subscribe button. We appreciate any support we can get, and it does help us out immensely. So if you do have the ability, please hit those buttons. It helps us really move things forward here on the channel. So please do hit those buttons if you're here. If you're not here catching us live and you're a podcaster person, we are on all major podcasting platforms within a week of the show. We also are on YouTube same day, and then usually you can check the YouTube after the fact if you're not obviously able to catch us live. Daryl is pulling out his shirt there. I'm also, I guess, wearing some merch too. So if you look at the bottom, there are some links. We do have Christmas coming up here pretty soon. So if you do need to get some gifts for your family, we have some fantastic bowls wear and different things that you could purchase for yourself. So again, any of those links that you hit or merchandise you purchase, we just put it right back into the podcast. So we appreciate any support we can get. So shameless plugs aside, we can jump right into our topics, I guess. So lots of sort of bowls going on right now in other spots except for Canada. We can start with the one that I guess is least recent. The World Bowls Tour had their first event of the year, the Scottish Open, which took place just over a week ago now. Obviously, it's in Scotland, so those results just wrapped up just over a week ago. So as you're seeing here, that is the two champions. So the winner was Stuart Anderson. He had a fantastic game against Jamie Walker in the final. So if you want to watch a pretty good back and forth game, the scores don't really do it justice. I guess Daryl does have the one video we posted. The one end specifically that we have here is just a really great back and forth end between the two of them. As I started saying, the scores don't really give the game justice. It was 11-6, 8-3. But that first set, the 11-6, was just razor thin margins in the end. The two, they both made lots of great shots, but Stewart was on a different level that day. His draw shot was spectacular, and then when he had to throw his weighted shots, he made some really great shots. So what do you think of, I guess, that final or just that event in general, Daryl?
Oh, it's fantastic to watch. Um, I don't know how many times I've said it on the channel, but if you haven't watched the WBT before, I highly suggest you watch the WBT. The shot making is phenomenal. I mean, they use excellent greens indoor, obviously on carpet. Just the who's who of indoor across the UK, and then you get some bits and pieces of people from around the world, including Canada, that you can watch play on those conditions against some of the best in the world. This one in particular, like especially that final match, was really fun to watch. So I was hooked right through the whole thing. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, we kind of had a little bit of a background pool that we'd put together. It's something we're sort of testing out for down the line, perhaps, where Daryl, me, and a few other guys were picking which players we thought were going to win. So it gave a little extra interest to us. And in general, though, I just love watching it and seeing the results each year. You did touch on it. There was some North American content in the event. So we did have Canada's own Dylan Jacobs was there. He had a bit of a tough one. His first game was against Jason Banks, who ended up, I think, losing in the semifinal. and what he lost in the world championship last year. So obviously one of the top players, and had a pretty tough showing against Jason. And then Scotty Marzoni from the USA was also there. And again, he played Nick Brett, and I think Nick lost in the quarterfinals or maybe the semifinals. So again, kind of the cream of the crop. They both ran into good players off the bat, but that is a bit of a promotion. If you ever have the desire to want to play there, if you've watched any of these events or you want to give PBA a chance, you can qualify and get yourself into these events. There's PBA Canada, there's USA PBA as well. So if you want to ever give it a go, definitely look up those different groups, and you can play in those qualifiers and potentially find yourself either on the blue carpet or at the Scottish Open.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the hit is always, oh, do I want to play, go over and get my butt whooped, and then come home after one game or whatever it is. I think people downplay just the whole event. You go over there, you meet some top-notch people. You play at a top-notch in a top-notch event at an awesome venue. And if you go back, I mean, we've seen it. Guys that have a couple of cracks at it can make it somewhere. You know, they understand the format, they understand the pressure, they know what's going on, and they can play a little bit better the second or third time. So don't knock it until you tried it, really.
Yeah, I think it's something on my my Bulls bucket list, if we're going to call it that. That I think one day I'm going to have to throw my hat in that PBA ring and give it a go. Maybe see if I can go there and embarrass myself. But
Yeah,
we'll see if that ever happens. But regardless, there's another World Bulls Tour event coming up in January, so we're obviously excited for. That's the big one at Potters. So that's the big week and a bit long event. So we'll obviously have more coverage of that coming up, obviously in
100%.
January. So excited for that. I guess we can move on to the next recent Bulls event that has occurred. So it started about a week ago, and I think wrapped up yesterday or the day before, was the BPL. So you can take this one, Daryl.
Yeah. BPL18. Again, this is another event that you should watch. It's totally different than anything else you've probably ever seen in bowls. Really short ends, sets, teams of three, playing pairs that you can rotate in and out. They have some neat little intricacies like power plays where you can get bonus points and stuff like that. So a really, really cool format. A lot of fun. They have a lot of energy. The production value and everything is just top notch as far as Bulls event goes. But this year for BPL 18, I'll just run down who was actually in it. Gold Coast Hawks was trying to play into the finals, but they got defeated by the Adelaide Pioneers. And then the Adelaide Pioneers were defeated by the Tweed Heads Ospreys. And the top seed going into that was the Moama Steamers. So they had sort of a double hit to get in there. They played the Melbourne Extreme and lost. So then they went and played the Tweed Head Ospreys to try to get into that final match, and they lost again, unfortunately. So it was the Tweed Head Ospreys and Melbourne Extreme in the final. And as you can see from the picture, the Tweed Head Ospreys won the BPL 18, and that makes it 4 that team has won, which is insane. I think it ties for the top in the whole BPL. There's another team, I think it might be Sydney Lions. I could be wrong, but they won 4. And from left to right, you've got Chloe Stewart, Corey Wedlock, Aaron Tees, and their coach, Wayne Turley. The three younger players that I have no doubt are going to be legends in their own right when all is said and done. Chloe is one of the top female, in my opinion, in Australia. She's phenomenal. Just a pure athlete all around. Corey and Aaron kind of came up together. I saw them in the World Youth all those many years ago when I coached there, and they've just done phenomenal things since, and they're on the national team. fantastic. And then Wayne Turley is just a legend in his own right. If you don't know who he is, you obviously don't know Australian Bulls. So awesome team. And then if I just scoot over to the All-Stars, they actually name 3 All-Stars for the event, and then there's the top MVP. So the All-Stars were Kylie Whitehead from the Melbourne Extreme, some guy named Aaron Sheriff from the Moama Steamers, don't know if you've heard of him, and then Aaron Tays. If you watched any of BPL18, you knew that he was probably up there for the MVP, especially that final game. He just played out of his shoes. He was phenomenal all week, but in those final couple matches, he was just unbelievable. So congratulations to all of them, and what an event. I really enjoyed that. What did you think, Mike?
I enjoyed seeing all the different shots. It seemed this go around. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there was a couple new teams this go around, or there's more teams than they've had in the past. So
Some shake-up, yeah.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of interesting shots that came out of it. So people making just strange or very clutch shots this go around. Some of the highlights I was enjoying where typically when you watch Australian highlights, you don't see a lot of the North American style shots where you're just maybe pushing a bull into a head type of a thing, or trying to just like ever slightly touch a bull over. But it seemed for some reason there were those perfect, just inch close shots on a few of the events. So I always recommend, if you're curious about this event, you want to see sort of the quick hitting part of it, go and check out those highlights through Bulls Australia. It's pretty awesome, some of the shots that were made this week. I think me and you were talking about before the show, I think Alex Marshall didn't really make that top group with his team, the Pirates, but he was playing really good, and there's quite a few highlights that Alex put together over the span of the week. And even some of the other people who didn't make it on, like I guess the Sydney Lions team that just missed out as well. There's a few from them, and so it's worthwhile checking out the highlights. I enjoy every time watching the games and seeing what happened and the crazy things that do happen with the sets play format.
Yeah, and again, just like the WBT is kind of that showcase of UK talent, the BPL is the showcase of Australian talent and New Zealand talent. Everybody kind of south of the border, so you see the who's who, and they're all excellent players. I mean, you go down the rosters of some of those teams, and it's like holy smokes, where does it end, really? So, fantastic event, and again, like I said, the production value is awesome. So, you're getting the best of the best as far as viewing Bulls.
Yeah, so that's about all we had for BPL. So obviously we look forward to the next one. I think they have another one again coming up in 3 or 4 months. They usually seem to run two a year type of a thing. So yeah, we'll have that to look forward to in the semi-immediate future. But we'll move on to the next in line of sort of things that have been happening. So I guess would that make it the Canadian short mat championships? Would that be the next one in line, or would we go Hong Kong?
We'll do Hong Kong first, and then we'll go to short mat.
Yeah, okay. So kind of everything's kind of been going at the same time here. So to go in a string of events is confusing. But so the Hong Kong Classic wrapped up yesterday or today. So that was taking place in Hong Kong. So anyone not familiar with that event, it's a pretty prestigious event that's been going for a very long time. I think it happened pretty much every single year, and it's pairs and singles. Pretty high end event. So that was just wrapping up today. I think Daryl and I were both watching some of the streams that they were posting there. So do you have some of the results there, Daryl?
Yes. Let me bring that up. So starting with the men's singles, Mark Wilson from Ireland took down the Hong Kong International Bulls Classic. You see the trophy there. Is that Shamir Zulkeple? I always mess up his name, but is a staple for Malaysia. He took down the second spot. And the 2 semifinalists, so they didn't really go second and third, but the 2 semifinalists were Elmer Abateo from the Philippines and Andrew Fleming from Wales. On the ladies' side, the winner of the singles was Jenny Mew, and she's from one of the clubs, TKOBC. We have Shandy Yu from CDER. If you know the labels of some of the clubs, you'll understand it, but it's very confusing when they list all of them. It's a ton of clubs. She took down second place, and then the semifinalists, Ada Lai from Hong Kong and Marissa Baronda, I believe it is, from the Philippines. So Philippines had a good showing there, which is really cool to see. And then we have a picture of the two singles finalists. Now, we don't have pictures of the pairs. They weren't posted. But in the women's pairs, I can give you the finals. Scotland took home first place. That was Dee Hogan and Rachel Sinclair. England came in second, Nicole Rogers and Harriet Stevens. And then the two semifinalists, South Africa, which was Jackie Jans van Rensburg and Desmarie Rosenblatt. And then Malaysia was Azalina Arshad and Emma Feryong Saroji. And then on the men's pairs side, first place was Malaysia, and that was Mohammed Hazli Abdul Race, and then Izzat Shamir Julkepe again. He had a great week. Second place was New Zealand, Sheldon Bagri Howley and Craig Tinker. Ireland, Mark Wilson had another great week. He was a semi-finalist with Adam McEwen. And then Scotland was another semi-finalist, was Paul Kane Jr. and Gary Prunty. So as you can see, a lot of Northern Hemisphere teams mixed with Hong Kong, Malaysia, and the Philippines in there. New Zealand making a strong showing in the pairs. I've seen Sheldon play before, and Sheldon's an excellent player. Obviously, he won, I think he won Bowler of the Year. Was it last year or this year? For New Zealand. So he's a young guy, excellent player. Really cool to see him starting to stamp his name around there. Watching the streams, I don't know if anybody out there watched the streams, but Mike, what did you think?
It was hard. It was tough to watch a couple of the streams because the greens did not look like they were playing very nice. I watched a good portion of that ladies pairs final, and neither team could find the center of the rink, so it was a little unfortunate to watch a game that looked like both sides of the rink, the team's bowls would hold out approximately 3 feet wide. So then it was whoever got the correct rub off of a bowl to redirect it in type of a thing. So it was a little tough to watch, but I think that's sort of what you expect with kind of any of the northern hemisphere type of greens. They are a little inconsistent. Just would have been nice to be on maybe a nicer green for the showcase game that was being streamed, but that's just me picking at things. What did you think of watching the games?
Probably the same. It was really tough to call shots. You were looking at pure North American Northern Hemisphere bowls where there's greens around here, like various clubs where you'd see the same thing, where you're not quite sure what to do, so it's a little bit up and a little bit in, and then you hope that one of the rubs or the things that you bump in is going to get you a shot. So it doesn't make for great strategical bowls. Sometimes you're just hoping and praying that you get one close. So it was tough to watch. I definitely felt for the players because you've done it as well. I've played over there, and the greens are not forgiving at all. So you miss your shot, you've missed your shot. Like that's about it.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to play the Ontario draw and be a little narrow and heavy through the head, and it works out for you. So
yeah, exactly.
I still enjoy seeing that event's being run, and that it's still fairly interesting. The top end players are still playing in it, so it's a pretty prestigious event, and I anticipate it's going to continue going on in the future because there's a pretty strong contingent of bowlers out of Hong Kong over about the last even 5 years, you can see that it's a pretty high level results at most of the international events still. So I anticipate that event, and I don't even know if Tiger Bowls exists anymore, but those types of events that they ran for years, I anticipate would be continuing to go forward in the future, because Hong Kong definitely loves their lawn bowls. So
Yeah, I would love to see just the development of the greens there. They've obviously got a huge population of players. They've got cool events like this where they actually draw in international talent. So, like, not expecting, Broad Beach, Helmsville level of greens, but something that runs in the teens and is somewhat true would be fantastic, and probably big for a better viewing experience and playing experience, and just raise the bar for bowls there in Hong Kong, because they're coming. I mean, I've seen their players, and they keep edging those semifinal qualification spots in a lot of the events, and I think it might be just the fact that they don't always have those facilities to practice on.
yeah, no, well said. It's hopefully down the line there's, well, as you're saying, the edging up in the greens, and maybe we'll even have a better event for people to attend down the line. I guess we could move on to the other event that I'd already kind of talked about. So Canadian Short Mat Bowls Association had their national championships started on the 14th, and looks like they wrapped up on the 17th. So what, Saturday that would have been, or Friday? Not sure. Just looking at my calendar, anyways. Wrapped up the other day. They started out with looked like it was singles followed by the pairs, and then they kind of dropped down to the triples. So how do we want to do this, Daryl? Do you want to cover some of the results, or
You want to take that?
sure? So
I'll do. We'll do singles, pairs, and trips. How about that?
okay, so Daryl gave me a big old list of the singles top 8. So the top seed for the quarterfinals, we'll sort of go from a rundown of that. Top seed was Bill McCollum, and then 8th seed was Patrick Cote. 4th seed was David Llewellyn. 5th seed was Ian McPherson. 3rd seed was Travis Anderson. 6th seed was Sophie Burrows. 2nd seed was Carrie Lucier, and the 5th seed was Michael Carter. The eventual winner of the singles, as you can see in the picture there in the middle, was Travis Anderson. 2nd place to the left of him is David Llewellyn. And then the bronze winner to the right is Patrick Cote. 4th place went to Carrie Lucier. So congratulations to everyone there. I know Travis went last year to the World Championships, and I think won a game or two. Bit of a tough run, but again, I think it's one of those things that short mat, you're probably getting more and more experience. So I maybe anticipate sort of like PBA stuff. If he won this go around, maybe we'll see him at the Worlds again this year, and maybe even some better results again. So congrats to everybody there. To move on to the pairs. So again, to sort of recap the quarterfinals, top seed was David Llewellyn and Debbie Farrell. The 8th seed was John McKenzie and Peter Stewart Shepard. 4th seed was Travis Anderson and Bill McCollum. 5th seed was Terry Bradshaw and Al Bell. 3rd seed was Fred Wallbank and Gary Pickering. 6th seed was Laura McPherson and Pat Kostecki. 2nd seed was Steve McCarahan and Patrick Cote. And then the 7th seed was Wayne Harding and Margaret Harding. The eventual winners in the picture here, Steve McCarahan and Patrick Cote. 2nd place was Travis Anderson and Bill McCollum. 3rd place was John McKenzie and Peter Stewart Shepard. And 4th place was Fred Wallbank and Gary Pickering. So congratulations to Steve and Patrick. Pretty nice for them to obviously get the plaque there and end up winning the pairs. I'm sure they were pretty excited for that. And then again, Travis to grab 2nd, essentially top 2 spots in consecutive events. That's pretty impressive. So congrats to everyone involved there. Glad to see a bit of a solid field there, or a pretty solid field there for kind of players we traditionally see outdoors. So congrats to everyone. Dropping down to triples, we don't have as detailed results for the triples, but the first seed was Gary Pickering, Bill McCollum, Peter Stewart Shepherd. Eighth seed was Laura McPherson, Chuck Ranger, Terry Cox. Fourth seed was Nan Hendren, Fred Gundel, Wayne Harding. Fifth seed was Bill Arthur, John McKenzie, Louisa Arthur. Third seed was Peter Anderson, Don Rush, and Tom Gwinnett. Second seed was David Llewellyn. Sixth seed was Sophie Burrows, Dave Burrows, and Judy Stanky. Second seed was Dave Llewellyn, Patrick Cote, and Fred Wallbank. Seventh seed was Sheila Rogers, Bill Rogers, and Debbie Farrell. The eventual winners. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time because I saved the photo and I'm having to pick the names out from our list here because so one thing Daryl and I kind of picked out is we had a hard time following the results because we had a couple different websites, but it wasn't really updated. I think the eventual winners was it Peter, Don, and Pim? Yeah. So Peter Anderson, Don Rush, and Tom Gwinnett. So congrats to them. That was the one photo I could find for the triples, but again, it was cool to see the results. I think all of those players are Ontario based, but I know the Canadian short mat is kind of just getting started or sort of established itself just a few years ago and has been growing a little bit since then. So I anticipate we'll maybe see people from outside of Ontario eventually playing in that, but it's still nice to see that there's a very competitive event that you have good solid amount of entries. Like I don't think we have any of the photos of all the mats they had in a line there, but that facility they're using is a very nice looking facility. And I think I counted something like 8 mats or 10 mats going at once. So it was pretty impressive to be able to lay them all out there and have a large scale event like that. What were your thoughts, Daryl?
I think short mat is an excellent alternative to just quote unquote normal lawn bowls that we play in outdoor. Since we don't have an indoor facility, gives us a lot of stuff to play for. It gives us a little more action during the winter. It's really cool to see that they've got Canadian Short Mat Bowls Association, obviously not associated with Bowls Canada or World Bowls at the world level either. So it's kind of a separate entity. I guess the only thing I wish is that I heard a lot more about it. Like I hear about some of the local clubs here in my area where they promote and say, hey, we're holding something tonight, come out and give it a try. But it was really, really hard to find what was going on and pictures and results and all that kind of stuff. Kind of had to go to the website and dig for those results. So I think that's my only thing is like, just let me know more. That's all I want.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a little hard to track everything, but I think through our different channels, we were able to figure it out between the different Facebook pages and everything. It was good though. It's nice to see the photos too of the place and everything that they're using. I think that's kind of the main things to be able to see it and that it's operational. I think I'd kind of heard somewhere down the pipeline that Canada may or may not be hosting the world event in 2 years or next year. I think I'd read that somewhere. So if that's the venue they're using, it's a very nice venue, and at least we have a pretty solid contingent of people to play there for anyone who is willing to come from other parts of the world to play in it.
It does look like Canada's going to host a little bit down the road, so plenty of time to develop and really get some top-notch facility and carpets and stuff going. And really all I can say is I hope that they continue to grow that side of the sport and they really start to promote it, because I think there's a lot of people out there that probably would play but just don't know about it. And despite some people talking it up, if it's hard to find, you kind of say, hey, I want to try that. You kind of look for it, and if you don't find it, it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to bother digging. So
yeah, no, I think it's something where visibility wise, it could be definitely brought up there. And
Yeah.
it's honestly, it's a very different sport than bowls. They're very much like kind of stepsisters or stepbrothers, whatever you want to call it, where they're related, but I don't think they fully are the same sport whatsoever. And some people really like it, some people don't. So I would recommend trying it if you've never have, but it may not be your cup of tea because some people aren't a huge fan of some of the rules around it and some of the intricacies of it. But I personally don't mind it. It's just finding the time to be able to actually practice it enough to be decent enough to beat some of the people who sort of specialize in it.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it. The times that I've gone out and played, and there was a couple winters where I played a fair amount in different places. Had a lot of fun with it, despite how many times I foot faulted because I do still take a step and I stepped on the line and lost my ball. It's still fun. So,
Of course, you'd be like that.
of course.
So, congrats to everyone again. Glad to see we had those results. We had a few other things you wanted to cover. Hey, Daryl.
Yeah. I'll throw this up. There's a lot of silence right now about the new format. We've kind of, for Canadians, we've kind of talked it right into the dirt for a while there, and across all the social media, especially Facebook, people drove that talk into the dirt. But I don't know of any other provincial association, but OLBA has released its schedule for next year. So not really, I guess, a schedule, but what their provincial championships will look like next year, which is kind of cool. It's kind of that first step into getting things settled down and some questions answered. There's still a lot of questions, like possibly some dates, and there's no conditions of play. OLBA always releases their conditions of play all at once for everything because it's one consolidated document, and then you can go through and figure out what you want. So still waiting for the conditions of play, but right now we see 5-a-side. The format features men's and women's singles, pairs, triples, fours in teams of 5. So basically the way that the Canadians is going to be played, and the intention for it, which is a team of 5 being split up into the various disciplines and playing together and then moving on together. They're keeping that going. So that's, I think, a big bonus and thumbs up for this format. It'll be played over 2 weekends. So men and women will be played in separate events. Teams will be put into pods. I'm still kind of questioning what pods mean because there's no glossary here to say what a pod is. Top 2 teams from each pod will advance to the second weekend. Those teams compete to qualify in the Canadian Nationals. Medals will be awarded for the top singles player, pairs, triples, and fours team, which is cool. So there'll be provincial medals for those that win. Top overall team will advance to the Canadian Nationals. So again, this isn't top singles player goes to play singles of the Canadians. This is top team. But if you are the top singles player in the province, you will still get a provincial medal and say you were the gold in Ontario, which is still something to strive for, I think. My assumption, being played over 2 weeks and putting into pods, that weekend 1 is kind of that preliminary round, kind of like the round robin, and then weekend 2 is kind of that knockout stage. Mike, do you have any thoughts on that?
I just giggled when you started talking about pods or questioning, because like for me, pods just makes me think of like a group of orcas or something, like swimming in the ocean. So you guys are going to be grouped into like families or something. I don't know. Realistically, I think like the pods are essentially pools. You're going to probably be dropped into pools because I don't know, if I were to throw a number out there, I think like Ontario, you're probably going to get somewhere in the range of maybe 12 plus men's teams. Like I don't know. Just if I threw a number out there, once you start getting to that range of 12, it's probably not logistically possible to run around robin where you're playing everyone. So then obviously you have to go into pods or groups. So I think that's sort of what it's meaning. And again, until that conditions of play or more details comes out, I think it's going to be hard to understand how or what's going to happen over the 2 weekends. Like my initial thought process that I had was that weekend one, you would probably run your singles and fours and do a full round robin. And then maybe your second weekend, do your triples and pairs and do a full round robin. That's sort of how I saw it going. And then as sort of what you're saying, the top team wins and yada, yada. But it's hard to say how that's kind of written. I don't know if, like you, as you're saying, maybe it's a qualifying type of a thing, and then you have to get yourself to weekend two. But I don't know. It's not completely clear. So I think a lot of people were disappointed with the lack of detail and then the non-clarity on the conditions of play part of it, because that's obviously a huge part to maybe decide for some people if they're going to even play in it, dependent on how those conditions of play will sort of are spelled out, like location. Obviously, I guess location would be a big thing for Ontario too, how that's going to work for if it's in one spot one weekend, one spot the other, and maybe people have to travel. I don't know. But in general, it's kind of nice to see that people are planning or getting stuff sort of settled. But again, it's still pretty murky. What were your thoughts, Daryl?
I think for that top section, the main focal point from that information is just that it's 5-a-side, that it'll be teams of 5. So at least people can really gear themselves up to get that team of 5 rather than, you know, the other option, which was 10, and everybody playing single events. So cool to get that at least underlined and said this is what we're going to do. But yeah, the 2 weekends is still kind of a question mark. So it's nice to get some information. Trickled information is always difficult to deal with because then you start getting speculation into what it's going to be and questions. So whatever way it's sliced, at least get your 5-man, 5-woman team together, solidify that, make sure you've rounded out your roster, and then just get ready for jumping into the playdowns and give it a shot. I'm hoping that other provinces kind of follow suit with the 5-a-side. What I'd like to see is let's try to keep it as consistent and pure as possible to what it's supposed to be. And then after next year, have at it with how did it play? How did it fall out? What did you see? What happened? And then start getting the facts out there. Because right now we're just kind of speculating what will happen. So let's give it a shot for 1 year, see how it runs, and then let the shitstorm begin, right? Once it's all said and done. And then Ontario's holding provincials, which I'm assuming that a lot of other provinces will be doing. So there's the seniors, the mixed, the novice. We have novice singles. So there's a singles event for just novices, which is kind of cool. We have a novice men and novice women event as well, which is combo fours, which is kind of neat for the novice players. Just so you don't have to try to necessarily get a full team of men or full team of women, and you get Aussie pairs mixed in there. So it's a fun event for the novices, which I really like. And then indoor singles, they're not changing anything. Indoor singles will be indoor singles because it's still technically running as a qualifier. So still a lot of events to play if you really want to play them. For me, I'm just glad that those ones that lead to the majors aren't going to be spread across 4 or 5 weekends anymore. It's going to be 2 weekends, get it done and dusted, and then I can move on to preparing myself for that if something happens, or I can move on to playing some fun tournaments and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, you covered the one thing that I'd say was my major takeaway was Ontario is running those other events that kind of were taken off the calendar per se. So the seniors, mixed pairs, and then still running with the novice stuff that they've ran for years. I think that's a key part that I think a lot of provinces are going to have to. It's going to be hard, I think, for a lot of provinces to really take up what you're going to have to require to do that, because a main part of these adjustments that was made is that the grassroots player, sort of the player starting from the bottom or wanting to train to compete, be competitive, everything like that, they're pretty much being forgotten in the 5-a-side format, because the 5-a-side format is designed to have your best team. Sort of the elite players assumably are going to be playing together, and there's probably going to be less opportunities for sort of that developing player or maybe that competitive senior player that just might not be as good as sort of those elite younger players. I don't know. But I like that there's other avenues or other tournaments being still allowed as part of the structure of the calendar, because it's not forgetting about the grassroots player, the player who wants to play in other things and then maybe just doesn't think the 5-man aside is for them, or they're maybe just not competitive or high enough caliber player. So I like to see that is there, and then that's going to be part of the calendar. I think like myself out here in Saskatchewan, I hope we have a similar type of thing, or maybe have some other tournaments that sort of sprinkle in as what you're saying, where instead of us having our provincials run 5-6 weekends of the summer, you now maybe only run it on 2, and then open up 4 other weekends to maybe throw in a new event or 2 and give people other opportunities or different events to sort of play through the summer and get that outlet for competitive play. So I'm fairly excited. I'm pretty apprehensive because Saskatchewan doesn't have our info out, and I know that's probably being discussed at this point, but who knows what'll happen, because sort of as you're saying, like, it's unknown if provinces are going to do the 5 or 10-man teams, and I'm not too personally as a player, I don't know if I would enjoy going to the nationals if I was on a 10-person team and maybe only qualified for the triples, and then only was 2 days of the 5 days that you're there bowling, and essentially just sitting there and doing nothing for the other 3, and then waiting for your turn to bowl type of things. But I don't know. We'll kind of see how my province goes. I'm sure as all the other provinces fall in a line, we'll do some coverage and talks about what the other provinces want to end up doing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. I know there's still that rumbling that what's going to happen with BC, so that'll be probably the big reveal at some point as to what BC is doing, yay or nay or otherwise. I'm going to be interested to see what Maritimes does, because there's that special grouping in there, and I'm hoping that we see some solid teams out of there, and some good competition. So I'm kind of excited to see where this goes, and really the winter will kind of tell heading into spring what we can expect for next year. So still a lot of time, still a fair ways away, but it's good to see some information coming out at least. It helps me prepare. Yeah. I know that. So.
Well, and realistically, it gives you a starting path, or sort of, I guess, the other provinces get a bit of a starting path. It's a bit of a leadership type of a thing or step by Ontario to release sort of what they're doing, because then it shows other provinces what they're doing, and a lot of the province will probably base it or be fairly similar, I'm thinking, but who knows what the end results will be. But I imagine you got to probably get that info out in the next couple months, because as you're saying, planning wise, it's tough to probably throw together a 5-man team if you haven't already started doing so. I think a lot of people, to fully finalize and understand what's exactly happening, you almost got to jump on it ASAP. So I think probably within the next month or 2, we'll have most of the other provinces releasing their info.
That's actually going to be one of the more interesting things for me, is just to see what teams emerge as contenders in provinces. Are we going to see teams of 4 just add a 5th? Are we going to see brand new teams that, combinations we've never seen before, which will be really unique? And how people will play it. How do you split people up? So who plays pairs, who plays singles, all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really cool. So Derek, hopping in the chat, hopefully there'll be a nationals, no host yet. So that's the other critical part, is that final mark, who's going to host it. So hopefully that gets cleared up. But I'm cautiously optimistic that there will be one, and we'll get it done. This is not new ground for hosting. There's always, nobody jumped up on the old ways either to really say, yeah, hey, we want that, and let's go with it. So I'm hoping that someone will step up and say, we're going to take it on and we're going to run with it.
Yeah, I think the main problem with the new hosting agreement is there's a lot of new things that were added in, and a lot of very particular asks that were made of the clubs. And really, if you kind of read through it, the minutia of the document, it's less funding or less money essentially is being given to the host clubs to sort of entice them to actually host the event. It's supposed to be seeking out of grants. And I know some provinces will give you grants, or some municipalities will give you lots of grants for hosting an event. Some will give you essentially zero. And so I think that's kind of the main hole in that document that's probably going to have to be worked through or potentially massaged out by a club, is I'm going to assume that whoever ends up hosting isn't going to be following sort of that original document that Bulls Canada sent out, because I don't think you're going to, well, as we've seen, we're now 2 months past that deadline, still no host. I think you're going to have to really massage or change some of the parts of that framework to really make it enticing, because I know if you're not getting the financial windfall or benefit of essentially giving up your greens for week and a half and all the sort of management and organization that comes as part of it, I think it's probably not worth it for a lot of clubs. What would you think is kind of the I guess the main pitfall right now for the lack of a host?
There's a lot of things going on. I haven't read fully through the hosting document, so I don't know the intricacies, but I know, it's a brand new format. There's been a lot of negativity online, which I think is unfair. I mean, and I think it skews it in a certain way, but it's a brand new format. There's para involved. There's a lot of stuff that you have to think about. So clubs just might be a little apprehensive to take it on, considering they didn't want to do it when it was just pairs and fours.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I'm just interested to see what the teams end up shaping up to be, because I think that's going to be the main thing down the line, is seeing what your 5-10 man teams are, and sort of those elite players or people that think that they're elite players that maybe don't get on teams and disappear into oblivion type of a thing. So I'm interested to see who essentially gets left in the wind in some provinces, and who joins together and can sort of coexist and play well as a unit. So it'll be cool. I'm optimistic for it, although I sort of said I have my apprehensions about the hosting and everything like that, and we've made it well known in the past. But fingers crossed we get an actual host and can start talking about the finalized formats probably in a show in a month or two type of time.
Absolutely it's gonna be fun. We'll see what happens.
All right, is there anything else you wanted to cover there, Daryl?
Not really. We've got some new shorts coming out, so check those out on our channel. The last one's been doing really well. It's that video that we posted for the WBT, just that really cool. I think it was N5 in the second set, back and forth. We'll be posting more highlight shorts and TikToks and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't followed us on any of the socials, make sure that you follow us, because we're going to try to start pumping out some content and keep you busy during the off season.
And I imagine probably sometime in the next couple of weeks we'll have probably our Team Canada selection coming out to cover. So we will have some news and some info to bring to you guys probably within about the next month, I imagine. I think they're past the deadline, so they're obviously something going on in the background that we would need to potentially wait for. So there might be a bit of a wait to see who's on the national team, but we'll probably have a heated debate about who made that team or who didn't make that team, because there's always a heated debate regardless of who ends up making the team.
There already is.
Yes, exactly. There's
already been announced. There already is, and the team hasn't been announced.
There's already a pretty heated debate, and it's not even been announced. Yeah, no. So it's always interesting to see who thinks they definitely should have made the squad or who didn't make the squad. So that'll probably be a whole show in itself, I imagine. But who knows when we'll be able to do that one? Probably, fingers crossed, within the next month, right, Daryl?
Absolutely.
Okay. So since we're here, I'll just do one last reminder. If you are here, please hit the like, comment, subscribe buttons. We like any sort of interaction we can get. Please hit those buttons because it helps us immensely. Daryl and I do have our awesome shirts and sweater for Daryl. So if you are looking for some Christmas gifts, please do check out our merch store.
Look for those
sort of help. As I say, we got Black Friday week coming up. So the last year, I think they had free shipping and There's a certain percentage off, so keep an eye out, because I wouldn't be surprised if the store we use actually has some discounts in the coming week here. So get those Christmas gifts for all your family members. Get our glorious faces adorning all of their shirts. So good. Anyways, thanks for joining us, and may all your bulls be touchers.